Okay.
I'm rolling.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Assemblyman Hakeem Jeffries, thank you very much for joining us in this lovely setting. The last time that we visited with you, we talked about redistricting. We talked about the strange situation that you found yourself in, which was that you were redistricted out of your home district.
Yes.
And now we see a situation where the Senate could go Republican. And what effect do you think that will have on redistricting?
Well, interestingly enough, both the Senate leadership, in terms of the Republican leadership, as well as the Democratic leadership, have both pledged to support nonpartisan redistricting at the start of the legislative session as we go into the next redistricting cycle.
Right.
And so even though there's this great state of uncertainty right now, regardless of who prevails, I'm hopeful that the leadership on either side of the aisle will stick to their pledge and support nonpartisan redistricting moving forward.
Now, what you're speaking to is the pledge that former New York City Mayor Ed Koch had as part of his New York Uprising Committee, right?
That's right.
So, if I'm not mistaken, that is about the bill that was carried by Assemblyman Mike Gianaris, who's now a senator-elect. That requires a commission to be set up, taking the responsibility for redrawing the lines out of the hands of the lawmakers. But isn't that just sort of one more layer? I mean, yes, it's a little bit of an insulation, but you can still lobby the commission.
Well, you can lobby the commission, but there will be guidelines and standards that is set forth in the legislation so that things like partisanship or incumbent protection are removed from the process, and things that make sense, like a community of interest standard, for instance, and what makes sense geographically, form the manner in which the lines are drawn.
Do you really believe, though, that these guys are going to be able to stick to that? Isn't it going to be too tantalizing for them? I mean, the Republicans, once they get in there, they're going to really want to try and redraw lines. That's part of the reason why nationally there was such a push for legislative races, because these guys are also going to be responsible for redrawing the congressional lines as well.
Well, there certainly will be a lot of external political pressure coming down from Washington, coming up from incumbents to maintain the status quo. But there's also a lot of public pressure to change the way that business is being done in Albany. And everyone understands, or reasonable legislators understand, that we can't continue to move forward in the way that we've been moving forward. And one of the ways in which you can dramatically change things in Albany is to change the way that political lines are drawn. The other thing that we should keep in mind is that Andrew Cuomo, the governor-elect, has indicated that he supports this as well. And he has the ability to veto any legislation that does not include the redrawing of lines in a nonpartisan way as set forth by the Gianaris legislation.
Right.
If he sticks to his guns, then we have a realistic chance of getting this done the right way.
But there are so many things on which he needs to stick to his guns. I mean, in terms of redistricting, there's first the budget, obviously. It's now out of balance in this current year by more than $300 million. Next year, you're going to have a multi-billion-dollar hole. I mean, obviously, that's going to be his top priority. Where in the pantheon of issues is redistricting going to fall?
Well, it's a very good question, and you know, the issue of prioritization by Andrew Cuomo in the next legislative session is going to be a difficult one for him because of the enormity of the issues that he has to face. He can't make a similar mistake that some argue the president made by not focusing exclusively on turning the economy around, bringing jobs to New Yorkers. And so there may be that countervailing pressure to put aside issues of process. But we have to keep in mind, as you've documented so well, there's tremendous voter anger directed at Albany. And this is a vehicle for Andrew Cuomo to fulfill one of his most significant campaign promises, which is to change the way that business is done.
If, in fact, the Republicans do manage to hold on in the Senate, and at this point it's really sort of a cliffhanger and we don't know, there are 3 seats in balance at this point, and they manage to redraw the lines, isn't it a very difficult, we've just seen in terms of the enrollment, you'd have to gerrymander so dramatically that it just doesn't seem even possible that they could gerrymander themselves into safe seats for the next decade.
Well, this is the interesting question. If the Republican leadership is in power and they stick to their promise to a nonpartisan redistricting commission, essentially what they're doing is against their own political interests as it relates to maintaining power for the next 10 years moving forward.
Right.
And so they're going to have to ask themselves, and there's going to be a lot of rank and file pressure to abandon that promise. because you're absolutely right. Given the demographic changes in New York, given the loss of upstate rural population, which tends to favor Republicans, and given the fact that we've prohibited them from counting incarcerated individuals in Senate districts that they're going to be drawing in terms of their counties of incarceration, and they're going to have to be counted downstate in urban communities where the majority of incarcerated individuals come from, it's very difficult for them to do this and maintain power in a way that allows them to continue to elect Republicans.
Are you worried going forward and just to come off redistricting for a second, the next budget is going to be quite difficult. The incoming governor has said, as you pointed out, that his top priority is to change the culture of Albany. He had some rather harsh things to say about the legislature as a whole, not specifically any particular lawmaker. Are you concerned? Because the last time we saw this, it was a steamroller who came in the form of former Governor Eliot Spitzer, and it did not work so well, and it was contentious and angry from the get-go.
Well, I'm confident that Andrew Cuomo will not repeat the mistakes of Eliot Spitzer. On day one, Eliot Spitzer essentially declared war on the legislature. On day two, he was in deep trouble, had no friends in either the Senate or the Assembly, and his broad-reaching agenda was largely doomed. Now, Andrew Cuomo has learned from his father, I believe, who once said that during campaigns, you speak poetry, but during governing, you speak prose. Because of the rough climate that we were in politically, with everyone upset at Albany, the poetry was rough. But I think that when it's time for Andrew Cuomo to speak prose, we'll be able to find common ground with him.
But the common ground is going to be painful. I mean, there will be cuts. There will be concessions required from unions. If there's no money, where's the money going to come from?
Right. The common ground is going to be tough, but we're going to have to cut in all likelihood in some areas, but we have to do it sensitively, and we have to make sure that it's not done on the backs of the New Yorkers who can least afford it.
If in fact the Senate remains Republican, and Andrew Cuomo had this platform that was fairly fiscally conservative, from a social standpoint more liberal, do you not think that the progressives, quote unquote, the unions, the Working Families Party, the people who are more on the left, are going to turn to the Assembly Democrats for protection? And how much protection will the majority be able to afford them?
Well, absolutely, and in some ways the Assembly Democrats have been in this situation before.
Right, when George Pataki was governor,
with George
arguably.
Pataki
Sure.
as governor, and the Republicans and Joe Bruno in charge in the Senate, where we have to be the institution that upholds progressive values. Sheldon Silver has already demonstrated his leadership abilities in this area in defending values that are important to the majority of the members of his conference, but also recognizing the realities of a difficult budget situation. We may be forced to be in that position again. I'm confident we'll get through it.
But it doesn't seem to be, it seems like you're pointing out where the fault lines are already. I mean, this is where the battle lines are going to be drawn. How do you do battle and not kill each other? That's not, that part I don't understand going forward.
Well, you know, it's interesting. Dick Gephardt, the former House Majority Leader, once said that in a democracy, politics is a substitute for violence. And so it is going to be rough, but it's all going to be done through the democratic process. And this isn't a dictatorship. There is separation of powers. There's a duly elected legislature, and we got to figure out a way to work with the governor, but do it in a way that's sensitive to the constituents who elect us to defend their individual interests.
Yeah, that's a tightrope act right there. That's going to be a balancing act. I just want to ask you also, going forward, you know, a lot of people have talked about you as an up-and-comer. What is it that you have your eye on? Do you know at this point?
Well, you know, at this point, I'm just looking forward to the opportunity to work in a context with a Democratic governor, hopefully for 4 years, one who serves his entire term.
Right.
It's clear, and the governor-elect has said this directly to me, that he wants to empower state government again and turn it into a vehicle for change for communities like those that I represent. I believe he's a man of his word, and I'm looking forward to working in partnership with him to help improve the quality of life for the people I represent. Are
you concerned about the issue of the fact that there are no people of color on the ticket, that he has said that the administration will be quite diverse, and yet he's not here, although we're hearing that he might at some point come here? You know, there's concern that he has not been as sensitive as he might be during the campaign to the Latino and African American communities.
Well, I've maintained from the beginning that if he produces an administration that is incredibly diverse and, more importantly, deals with the issues of the African American and Latino communities, then he will be a governor that is not just accepted, but in some quarters will be loved by people like those that I represent in the black community and those that my colleagues down here at Somos represent in the Latino community. If he fails to deliver on issues of significance, that is where he will run into problems.
Well, it is a tall order. It's going to be a very interesting year. In the meantime, I want to thank you very much, Assemblyman Hakeem Jeffries, for joining me.
Thank you for having me.